Hello and welcome to the Metroidvania Review tier list stream. I said it right that time. Hi, Nick.
Nicely done. How's it going, everybody?
So this week, we're going to talk about the worst Metroidvania I had played at the end of the stream. Last week, we did the games that we reviewed and streamed together, Nick and I. And the week before that, we did Metroid, and before that, we did Castlevania. This week, we're just going to talk about the singular. I'm not going to talk about a bunch of bad games we played. We'll just get through that as we go through the tier list. And so that will be the end of the stream today. But before we do that, I wanted to explain what the Nancy Drew tier is, because I got another comment that's, what the heck is the Nancy Drew tier? It makes no sense. On Wednesdays, you can catch the Metroidvania podcast, and on that Metroidvania podcast, there is a character named Atsero, and this is her way of teasing people who, with the genre definition of Metroidvania. She picked the most non-Metroidvania thing she could think of, which was Nancy Drew, which I could probably still make an argument. It has Metroidvania elements using the definitions that people often use. So that's why the Nancy Drew tier exists, because this whole tier list thing spawned from us chatting on the Our Metroidvania Discord. And I said, if somebody makes me a tier list, then makes the pictures, that I'll go ahead and do this stream. Somebody did that, but as part of the joke, they included Nancy Drew on here. And I'm like, well, you better put a Nancy Drew tier in there, because I'm not going to put that on a thing on the list. And it's been convenient for storing things we haven't looked at yet. So explained, I hope. Does that clear it up? Clear as mud, right?
100%.
Morning Ether and Morning Animator AR, thank you for coming today. Let's just dive right in, because we have probably about 90 more games left. I reviewed a lot of games. Did you know that, Nick? Had you heard that
We are cruising for a bruising today.
Had you heard that I reviewed a couple of games while I was doing the Metroidvania review?
I thought you had done like 2 or 3. I'm surprised you did this many.
Alright, first game is Sundered. Sundered is a roguelite with Metroidvania-ish elements. I actually would compare this more to Diablo. It's what it feels like more to me. Its main shtick is that when you're wandering around its little procedurally generated, it does the thing where it has rooms that it all links together. You'll randomly get attacked by swarms of enemies. Like right here, you'll see this like a whole big swarm coming. I think that's probably the most controversial part about this, is people don't like suddenly being swarmed in the waves and stuff like that. And honestly, normally that would be something I would hate. However, this game is multiplayer, and having a friend with you, it is now, the Elder Tradition added that. We'll talk about out there. I don't think I'll ever do Metroidvania, but it's one that was highly requested. Anyway, you can play with up to 4 players, and it kind of has a Diablo-like quality to it. You just kind of go in, you smash a bunch of monsters, and like most roguelites, when you die, you get to go back to the middle hub area. I don't know, yeah. And they have a skill tree that you upgrade as you level up, and I think it's a great game as a co-op game. As a single-player game, it has its qualities. Is it a Metroidvania? You do get ability upgrades that allow you to traverse the world better, and so if that's the main requirement. Oh, and it's a large contiguous world. That's your main requirements. It sort of fits. It's not your traditional style, though I would consider this more of a action combat game. Have you played this one, Nick, or is this one that you were interested in?
No, I don't think I've actually even really looked at this very closely. How does the multiplayer work with the death mechanic? Do all 4 of you have to die, or if one person dies, do they just watch?
That's a good question. I don't remember. I think if one person dies, everybody dies. So you have to kind of protect yourself. And one other thing I'll mention is when you're playing multiplayer, you do split your hit points among everybody. So everybody has like a quarter hit points. I think if somebody dies, I think everybody watches, and then you have opportunities to revive the other person.
That would make sense.
It's been a long time.
Tends to work the best.
This was 2019, so...
That's always my problem with games like Risk of Rain. If you die in a level and you die early, you could be sitting there watching for 10 minutes.
I don't remember it being that bad, but I do remember maybe suiciding a couple of times. Anyway, I give this one an A. I think it makes it. Also, the art is just gorgeous. It's made by the same people that made Yotun, and also Spiritfarer is another one that came out recently that apparently has Metroidvania elements. Let's see if it's still on there. Okay, there are some people that were like, "This is not Metroidvania," and apparently the hordes of genre defenders have managed to remove that Steam tag. But anyway, they're very good at animation. So that is Sundered. Next game on the list is, and welcome, Johan Anderson and Couch Cow. That's time to be rating it 14. Well, you can always listen. Next game is Gato Roboto, which is interesting to me that this is coming up now. I guess we're finally getting closer to... For some reason, I feel like I played this game recently, but I guess I reviewed it back in June 2019, so I guess that's just 3 years ago now? So Gato Roboto bills itself as a mini Metroidvania. It took me 2.8 hours to beat, so kind of my threshold for what I call a mini Metroidvania is 2 hours. It's possible that I put in a little extra time. Biggest flaw in this game is that if you don't 100% it the first time, the game kind of forces you to replay it to 100% it, so there's like a point of no return on it. But it's a good, solid, straightforward game. It's... Whether or not it's a Metroidvania, it kind of has a spoke and hub design, and you really can't go into the other spokes until after you've collected the upgrades to go to the next area. So it kind of plays out more like levels anyway, but it's good and solid. Devolver Digital usually publishes really decent games, so.
And you're a cat in a mech suit, so I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's cute. Next
you get that new cat game, and I don't even think you get a mech suit in that game.
Oh, I almost jumped into the next game without placing this one. I get this one an A. I think it makes it.
A for cat.
A for Gato.
Kind of stretching that.
I like the monochromatic look, but I can understand not liking the monochromatic look. When it comes to graphics, I don't usually... I probably don't talk enough about music, because I do appreciate good music. That can make or break a game. I think Gato Roboto has solid 8-bit music. That's another problem with music, though, is I really like 8-bit music, and some people are like, you gotta have real music or whatever, but I don't know, I think the 8-bit tuning is great. Same thing with graphics. Like, I grew up with games like Metroid 2 on the Game Boy, so I guess graphics don't really... Things like that don't really affect me.
Yeah.
Next game, Toki Tori 2. This one is Game Maker's Toolkit's Is This a Metroidvania? Mark Brown said that, and I think it was the developers who were like, did we accidentally make a Metroidvania? The answer is no. There are no ability upgrades in this game. This has the controversial knowledge gating, where as you play through it, you find out things that you didn't know you could do, and you access other things, but that's kind of overselling it, because there are a lot of areas that you just don't get to because you haven't unlocked them yet. As far as the gameplay, it's puzzle platforming with a big egg-shaped bird, and that's kind of my problem with it, is that I enjoy puzzle platforming, but the thing about puzzle games for me is the theming really has to be on point, because I get bored pretty quickly with puzzle games. As soon as I hit that wall of something I can't figure out, unless I need to see what happens next in the back of my mind, it makes it difficult for me to continue with that particular game as opposed to playing something else. And Toki Tori really has that problem where its theming is just kind of bland to me, and the ending is a terrible payoff. You just kind of get a credit sequence. Like, I didn't even know I had beat the game when I beat the game. I kind of had to go online and look at other people's playthroughs just to make sure that I had seen the main parts of the game, and that was it. So if you enjoy pure mechanics, this is fine. Not really a Metroidvania. Solid puzzle platforming, though. So if you really just enjoy puzzles and are okay with a strict gameplay focus, then that's fine. like something like Baba Is You is better to me because the mechanics evolve so much throughout that game. But Toki Tori 2, it just kind of has its main mechanics, and I mean there's level gimmicks, but I don't know. How do you feel about that, Nick?
I mean, I never played it. The game always reminded me of it was a PSP game where you were a big yellow bird, like Moko Roko or something like that.
Oh, Loco Roco.
Oh, Loco Roco. Yeah, that's what it was.
You were more like a water balloon in that game.
No, yeah, you were just a big rolly ball, but you were a big yellow bird. Anyway, I liked that game. I didn't really like the look of this game.
Well, I mean, I'm talking about the puzzle games, though. Like, I don't know. Do you play a lot of puzzle platformers? I don't know if I've heard
puzzle.
of. Yeah.
No, not really. I mean, I enjoy puzzle games, but I enjoy construction puzzle games, like where you're trying to compose a solution. So games like Space Chem and I don't know.
Creative physics games.
Yeah. Armadillo Run.
Factorio.
That's good stuff, and that's not what this is. So that's not really in my wheelhouse.
This is more like the single solution thing. And like something like Portal or, like Superland, which I gave an S tier on here, the theming really pushes it. And I just think that that's the issue I have with this one, is that if the theming and maybe a narrative was a stronger aspect of this game, I probably feel stronger about it. But whoops, I just closed my tier list. Hopefully everything's okay. I give this one a B, though. Okay, there it is, the B tier. Would Tetris count, Nick?
I mean, I enjoy Tetris, but
I feel like Tetris is like a different category altogether. That's more like that's like
a spatial awareness and planning kind of thing.
It's like the puzzle version of real-time strategy. You kind of have to. You have like everything's moving, so I think that's the best way of putting it. All right, next.
The games I like are programming games. They're games that are it's basically a simplistic form of computer programming, but through a more visual interface. Those are the puzzle games I tend to enjoy. Anyway, please continue.
Yes. Have you tried Baba Is You? You should try Baba Is You because it's very.
I should try it. It's on my short list. I picked it up at some point, but I haven't played it yet.
You like Noita and you Environmental Station Alpha, same guy. It's Humpley.
I have put plenty of time into Noita, a different kind of puzzle game.
So, Tetris is kind of an arcade game. That's probably a good way of putting it. Metamorfose S is the next game on this list. I hate this game. Actually, there's not really much to hate about this game. This is like the B-movie version of a Metroidvania. You have a lot of indie games coming out with amateurish elements to this. This one feels... It's like that good kind of amateur, like there's talent, but at the same time there's so much lack of polish, but not in a technical level. Like the game functions really well. You don't have any of those janky collision physics with the walls that you see in a lot of really amateurish games. But the biggest problem with this game is that, and I talked about this, actually, I streamed this a little bit in the Metroidvania podcast. So if you look up Metroidvania podcast, Metamorfose S, you'll probably find the video of when I streamed this, and I kind of talk a little bit more about what the issues are. But biggest problem is all the enemies have the same attack pattern. Almost every single one. There's the occasional mix-up where they might shoot at you, but usually it's they jump forward, they attack, and then they go back, reset back to their old position. And I think the reason why they're programmed that way is that pathing is actually a really difficult thing to do. And having them reset back to their position is an easy way of getting around that. The problem with that is it does not make for very interesting gameplay for a 10-hour game, which is what this took me. With that said, it's an Igavania style game. You swing ahead of you just like Symphony of the Night. You level up. There's a stat system allocation that you have. Very kind of a fun game, and I think that some of the Metroidvania upgrades are interesting as well. So if you just enjoy exploring a world, I recommend it. Otherwise, the combat just gets really boring, so I'm going to give this one a D tier, actually. Whoops.
Those are some rough animations.
My aim is really off today. Let's see. Yeah, welcome Dungeon Dive. All right. So yeah, Metamorfose S. I recommend it. It's very rough. But if you enjoy Castlevania style games, I think you'll enjoy this. Next game is Eagle Island, and I guess they've added twist to this, so there may be more to this than when I originally had seen. I enjoyed this game a lot. It's kind of, I don't know if roguelike's the way I would put it, because I'm pretty sure the levels are all very set, but it has kind of that feel to it, where I guess it has a Smash Brothers game in it now, which is kind of interesting. When you're going through the level, you're kind of really keeping track of your resources as you go, and have to keep yourself alive in a similar way that you try and keep yourself alive in a roguelike, but I think every level is handcrafted. I think the loot is randomized, so there's that aspect to it that might be a plus or a minus to you. I think that's where maybe the roguelike elements might come in. I mean, it calls itself an action roguelike, but I don't think the levels are scrambled. I thought it was really solid. I think that the gameplay is strong enough that even with crummy mods, these are the random things that you get. I felt like that my skill is what trumped everything, and to me that's worth a lot. This is similar to Chasm, though, where I probably enjoyed it more than a lot of people would. The graphics, of course, are beautiful, so that is a benefit to it, and everything's just super tight. But besides that, it is pretty straightforward level grinding. So this is kind of like and when I say level grind, I don't mean like RPG. I mean like playing actual levels. It's kind of like, this is kind of like the opposite, or the Toki Tori of action games, except that I happen to enjoy the action game genre enough to enjoy a game based strictly on its mechanics. The twist stuff, I don't know if it adds anything that would change my mind about it, but I think this is a very strong action title if you just enjoy straight action mechanics. As far as Metroidvania-ness goes, the initial game, it looks like they've added a world map. I don't know if they have a screenshot of that, but it came up on the video earlier. They added a world map, but originally it was a kind of a Metroidvania hub world where you unlock different eagles, or I guess they're owls, and they allows you to access more of the hub world, and that's basically as far as the Metroidvania part goes. But I think I give this one an A. I think I initially gave it an A+, but I think that overall...
Why are they owls on Eagle Island?
I don't. I guess I don't know. The theming in this game, I think this is one of those games where it doesn't have any words, and the theming is basically some birds were stolen and you have to get them back.
I mean, fair enough, but come on, guys. Name your island appropriately. I guess they added a skill tree in Twist. I don't know. I should play the Twist version and see if... but it's probably not Metroidvania enough to get more attention than I've already given it, which is a ton. So let's take less time on that and jump into Mage, which is another game I played on the Metroidvania podcast when I did the... I played 3 mini Metroidvanias. This one can be beat in half an hour. It's a fun run through. That's it. It's just it's a good solid mini Metroidvania. As you can see, it's very rough around the edges. It feels like a game that somebody made in MS Paint, and they knew the game, like solid game fundamentals and basics, and pulled it off. So you can get it for $3 full price, probably 50 cents at a discount. I think it's worth the 50 cents if you just want just something Metroidvania to play through. I'm going to put that with all the other like C-tier mini Metroidvanias that are just fine. Kind of surprised that nobody had picked the name Mage for a game before then.
I am willing to bet that it's not the only one. Mage Rage, that sounds fun. Anyway, it's probably not the only one. But don't name your game something like this, though, because it makes it really hard to find on Steam. Just my 2 cents. Next game on the list is a game that I really like called Grizzland. Another monochromatic game. I think Comb's better, Ether, than Mage. Coma's also fine. I'd probably put that in C or B, probably C. I played it recently. I was actually going to review it, but then things got crazy. So Grizzland is... It does have Metroidvania elements, but similar to Gato Roboto, you have layers that you move up. It doesn't have a spoken hub style world. It's more like going deeper into a dungeon type thing. And it's one of those kind of surreal presentation games where everything feels a little bit off and otherworldly, and that's one of the things I like about it. The attack animations are a little bit slow, so I wouldn't call this a super strong combat game, but I think that the atmosphere is what really sells this one for me, and I really had fun exploring, just because when you have an alien world like this, it just makes it fun to see what else there is to see. And even with the monochromatic presentation, I felt like it was worth exploring. So this one's an A tier for me. What is the Steam review average on this one? 90%?
Positive.
87%? Pretty good. I actually thought that this was one of the ones that people kind of didn't like, and the bosses are solid, even though the animations are a little bit slow. Bosses are actually really solid. I think this one deserves more attention than it's probably gotten. It only has 16 reviews now. So last time... Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, probably just because it doesn't stand out as much. The monochromatic look doesn't hold up as a unique graphical style like it used to, just because it's so kind of inundated, especially in Metroidvanias.
Yeah. It's one of those games where the authors... I think it's a single-person game where the author's expression kind of bleeds out into it, and as I mentioned last time, I really appreciate that. And speaking of which, the next game on the list is External Visions, and similar to Time Spinner, where I kind of felt the writing wasn't great, I still appreciate the expression of the person who created it. And this really feels like kind of autobiographical. And in some ways it's really awkward with how it does that. And I think this one might not be English native language. I actually don't know whether or not Time Spinner is either, to be honest, but that one didn't smack me as a translated game. Like some of the English used in this is awkward.
Yeah, it didn't flow well.
Yeah, like you can kind of get what they're trying to say, but it's not like the best way to say it.
All your base are belong to us.
Yeah, but so this is one of many Metroidvanias where you kind of exploring a person's brain, or at least that's what the theming of the game is. I don't know if that's even a spoiler, but it's that part of it was really interesting to me, and it's kind of a puzzle platformer. So in this game, you don't actually get ability upgrades. You kind of collect different types of weapons. Like for instance, in this video, he was using a yellow laser, and then there's like a red one, and I think there might be a green one, and they all do different things. Like the yellow one will create platforms, and I don't remember what the other ones do, but there are different like projectiles that do different things, and the object of the game is to kind of figure out how to get to the next projectile to get access to another area. That aspect of it's actually really good. The problem with this game is that the physics and timing of everything just seems a little bit off, so it makes bosses kind of frustrating. Maybe it's a little bit long, and of course there are the issues with the writing. It just, I can see what he's trying to convey, and I can really appreciate that. I love the feel of that, but some people, what is this, 75%? You may hate this game. I appreciate it for what it is. This one's actually free to play now, so that makes it easier to play, and it's on Steam, so you don't have to go and hunt down the free to play website.
Nice.
What did I give this one originally? Yeah, I think I'm probably gonna leave it there. I think I'm teetering on C or D with this one. I'm gonna go ahead and throw it in D on that one. Same polish issues that Metamorfose S has. Essentially at letter K. I must have missed where it was out of the video. So that's External Visions. Demon Peak is a game that I like that apparently nobody else likes. I still give this one probably a C tier. polish issues is the reason why people hate it. Polish issues and the fact that it's very punishing. Does this still have the Souls-like tag? For a while there, it had the Souls-like tag because Souls-like apparently means difficult. You don't actually.
I found that amusing.
You don't actually level up or anything in this one, but I thought the bosses were good fun for a game that you can get. I think I probably got it for $1 initially. But it's one of those where you kind of like the animations are janky and it feels like some things don't work, but they actually do. You just have to get past its lack of polish to get there. So I think there's some good fun bosses to be had in this one. It took me about 3 hours to beat. But that's a C-tier game just because of that lack of polish. Again, one of those things that I really liked it. I acknowledge that it's probably not a great game. But similar to like Harmony of Dissonance, I enjoyed it when I played it. So
that's what matters.
Back in the theme of games where you explore a person's mind, which is frankly a decent idea for a Metroidvania. It gets to the point where I'm playing another game right now. I will not mention why I'm playing it because that would give away what it is, but it gets to the point where you play enough of these games where you're exploring somebody's brain that when that's like the big reveal, you kind of start predicting it because you played enough of them where they do that. So it's a great concept to put into a Metroidvania that you should probably put up front if that is the idea behind your game. Because using it as a reveal these days, you just can't. It's done so often that it's hard to surprise people with this anymore. Anyway, Dreaming Saria is like the Metroidvania Yume Nikki. As far as Metroidvania elements goes, you pick up items that allow you to access other areas. But this game is literally just about going into surreal areas and exploring them. I guess that's probably why they don't have a video, because that's kind of the point of the game. And then interpreting it for yourself. Compared to Yume Nikki, though, the big problem with this one is that the surprise at the end, because all of these dreaming games have a surprise, doesn't really invite a lot of deep thought about what happened. Whereas Yume Nikki, like once you beat that game, you're like, oh, now this is recontextualizes everything in the game, and I have to understand it now. And great for making fan theories. Dreaming Saria doesn't really have that, so it's just kind of an atmosphere game. You're going to say something, Nick?
No.
So I think I put that in C tier, and I think that's where it belongs. All right, out there somewhere, Ether noticed that this was on the queue here. For whatever reason, people really wanted me to review this game. And let's see if it still has the tag. Have they finally gotten rid of it? Okay. Oh, no, it's still there. It's not a Metroidvania.
Then it is a Metroidvania because Steam can't lie.
So, like, Cave Story, you could argue is a Metroidvania because you can backtrack to other areas and go and get the items that you missed. This one has items you can find that will make the game easier, but it's kind of a strict puzzle platformer otherwise, and I don't think you can backtrack to other areas to get the stuff that you missed. So, this is one of those, it's like, it was... And it's 2016, so I really don't know why everybody wanted me to play this one. I think one thing that is interesting about it is whether or not, or is like finding items throughout the world helps you fight the final boss at the end, and so it's kind of like leveling up for that final boss. That part is interesting, but overall, it's just I don't know. I thought it was just okay. It's a fun puzzle platformer. I did play to the end of it. The mechanics did evolve enough, and there was enough action that it kept my interest better than something like Toki Tori, but even though I think Toki Tori is an overall better game.
Graphical style reminds me of Environmental Station Alpha.
Yeah, but this one's definitely barely comparable as far as Metroidvania-ness goes. Question is, Yume Nikki and Metroidvania, you get in dreams and unlock new abilities and stuff. It is about as Metroidvania as Dreaming Sarah is, and I would say, I mean, it depends on really how your definition of Metroidvania is. If you think that you have to, you're going towards a goal, I don't think it has that same feeling. Like, the point of Yume Nikki and Dreaming Sarah is to see everything and interpret it for yourself. I just hit my microphone, sorry. Whereas, like, the point of Symphony of the Night is to go kill Dracula. So
it's more singular of purpose.
Yeah. So I guess it depends. And I think Sarah just jumped in. And Earthbound kind of game. Gosh, that's the other genre that doesn't really have an identity. Okay, so Blaster Master. Oh, did I skip Xeodrifter? I must have skipped Xeodrifter. Let's talk about Xeodrifter next, because a friend of mine actually just 100%ed this game, so it's been kind of on my mind. I love Xeodrifter. I think it's hilarious. It is a game where you crash land on a planet, and you have to get off, and so you murder everything in sight to get what you need to get off the planet. It is the most I am better than you survival game out there. You just wreck these alien planets to get the pieces you need. And, like, the poor aliens, they're just trying to defend their home, man.
And you're just ripping... Do they actually work that into the narrative? That
No.
You're just, like, demolishing these places?
This is my interpretation of the Ludo narrative.
Oh, that's too bad.
But, like, all they're doing is just living in their place, and you're just like, I need fuel, so I'm going to go kill you and get this stuff. So,
hey, when you need fuel, you need fuel.
So the big gimmick in this game, I don't know if you saw it in the video here, is they have 2 layers on a lot of levels. Let me see if I can get... So right here, where he's in the background, you kind of jump back and forth through the foreground and the background. That's really interesting. And then the other interesting thing about it, let's see if they have a screenshot of it, is you can customize your weapon, like, completely. Like, normally your weapon shoots straight forward, you can make it zigzag, or you can draw the pattern so it, like, does a loop-de-loop and things like that. That's really fun. It's really cool to just customize your weapon perfectly. Usually you just make it a normal weapon, but you can, make it loop downwards if there's an enemy beneath you, and you can have different sets that you can switch between. So if you have something that comes up a lot, you can save weapons that you need. That aspect of it's really interesting. It has very Metroid style powers. You have a speed dash, and then of course its main gimmick is jumping forward and backward between the background. Good game, great. I like it a lot. Problem with it, bit short. I think I beat it in 2.2 hours. I wouldn't necessarily call it a mini Metroidvania. Bit short for what it is, and the bigger problem is that you fight the same boss over and over again, and all the boss does is add, like, a new move to its moveset. And one of the moves that it adds is basically just one of those, he makes himself invincible, and now you have to wait. So
those are the worst.
Yeah, and so it's like, that he's going to start using that again the next time you see him. You kind of wish that maybe it was just a different boss entirely at that point. But, so, gets a B, just for those factors. But I recommend it. I think it's good. He looks like Among Us. This came out way before Among Us. This was 2014. Solid. It's made by the people that made Mutant Muds, which I apparently have ignored. Revealing about myself and the things I ignore.
Pursue,
yeah. Oh gosh, this one. The page is even gone. All right, so this one's Blaster Master. It doesn't actually have a page. Let me go ahead and open Blaster Master Zero's page. This is one of the ones that I regret not being able to put more time into, because there's 2 more games that I haven't reviewed. So the original Blaster Master. Wish I had a video. I don't want to just pull up somebody's YouTube video. Let me just pull up my review so I can show the screenshots that I had on there, which I probably pulled from another website anyway, from the stock footages. Original Blaster Master is very NES. That's its biggest problem. You have lives, and if you run out of lives, you have to continue back from a certain point. And the final boss is just so incredibly jank, and it's just impossible. It is the epitome of NES hard. This is a problem that Sunsoft games had in general, is they had really high concepts that really get you excited about it. And Blaster Master just gets so rough at the end. But its big gimmick is that you have a Metroidvania world, you get different Metroidvania powers that allow you to traverse it, and then you go into top-down dungeons like Zelda and explore inside those, and that's where you find most of your upgrades. So interesting dynamic between a 2D platformer and a top-down Zelda-like. Execution-wise, it's great for its time, but it for concept. But as far as playing it today, it's kind of hard, so I just revealed the score there. I put that one in the D tier. However, Inti Creates, the people that made Mega Man Zero and the Curse of the Moon Bloodstain game that people seem to like more than Bloodstain itself, made a full remake of Blaster Master. And it is a lot better. I definitely recommend playing this one over the original. It kind of goes too far in the other direction, though, where this one is a bit too easy. So you just kind of roll through it, and they did mix up the level design a lot, but it still has some of the issues that the original had, where you'll go into a Zelda dungeon and the reward you get just doesn't feel very satisfying. But super strong. Apparently the sequel's got it better. This one, I can't remember what I put this one in. I think I put it in... I think I put that in the B tier, so I think that's where I'm going to stick that. I think they did a great job updating an old NES classic, though. So, and it's also multiplayer, so has that going for it as well.
Cool.
The Wario Land-esque game that's coming up. Not sure what we're referring to, but we'll find out in a minute, I guess. All right, so here's a pair of games that I kind of feel bad I don't like more. Let me go ahead and grab both of them here so I can have them ready. It's another situation where you have a one-person game making a passion project. And in this case, they just didn't have the talent of level design or combat design to really make it good. And that's its problem, is it's very boring. the combat is very hacky slashy. You kind of level up and face tank things, and I mean there's a little bit of strategy to it, but it's also very floaty, if you can see the animations here in this video. So it makes it really frustrating, and if you're playing on a harder difficulty, which I fortunately did, it's very frustrating, just some of the jank that it has to deal with. The level design is you're thrown into an area and you have to go and flip a bunch of switches in order to move forward. This is the most boring, I am taking your time and that's my main goal style of level design. This one has a forced running section with random elements. I think there's a video of it here that was probably one of the most frustrating things that I've done on the Metroidvania review as far as games that have difficult sections go. And then to top it all off, it's very adolescent, very immature. It feels like a game that somebody made right when they came out of high school, and they still thought that genitals are funny. There's a topless dryad with teeth between her legs that you fight at one point, that when she bites you with her legs, that's what triggers a story thing. If I had anything...
So the game has class for days.
Yeah, it's class for days. But with that said, there is a certain charm to the characters in this game. Oh gosh, yeah, they're showing the monkey doing things. That it does feel like, being friends with a bunch of people in high school who just have no maturity. So that is a plus for the game. But overall, I give this game an F. Just
for Folly.
For Folly, yeah, Zeran's Folly. Did I even mention the name? That's Zeran's Folly. So they made a sequel called Leowald, where you actually play the child of the two main characters from the first game, and you can choose a male or female character. What do you mean? Genitals are funny. All right, Sarah. All right.
Depends on the genitals.
Leowald solves a lot of the gameplay issues in the first one, but then like removes any of the character that the first one had. So in that way, it's sort of worse. This is funny because you can play blackjack with this dude and make money, and you can save right before there's a save point right next to it.
So you could just save scum all his money.
He save scum all his money, so that was one thing I did, and it probably made the game easier than it was. Gameplay still has the same boring level design of the first game, but it has one redeeming factor. Well, first off, it doesn't have all the immaturity that the first game had too, so that's nice. But it has one redeeming factor, is it has one scene at the end of the game that I actually thought was actually pretty well built up to, that almost redeems the entire game for me. It doesn't, but like it's almost worth playing just for that scene. Almost, like it actually hit me in an emotional way, and I felt like it came from the author's real life. So for that, I give this one an E. But overall, it's basically the same. From a gameplay perspective, it's basically the same as the first one. Yeah.
Hey, you know what? It's a sequel that improved. So good job.
Yeah, that doesn't always happen, and that's a problem. Next game is Redo. I actually like this game a lot. If you want a Metroidvania that is also a survival horror game, this is probably a good example of that. It's not really a Metroidvania in the sense that it has exactly one upgrade that gives you access to more of the world. It's more of an open world. I think it has a couple of upgrades that will give you access to other areas, but it's more of a key gating type thing. What makes this game interesting is the resource management. I think that the game is fairly generous with what ammo it gives you, and you do replenish your ammo either from boxes really easily, or you get it back from your checkpoints. But the resource management is the most interesting part of it. All of your sub-weapons each have like a very specific thing that it does. So it's just a game about managing your tools, similar to a survival horror. And it's very difficult, but once you kind of learn how to play it, it does a great job with what it is. And I love all of its little mechanics. Like, for instance, here, I just clicked the wrong screenshot. They have their own hit points, but they also have a stun hit point meter, and your weapons will interact with one or the other. And sometimes stunning them is stronger than actually damaging them, because then you can do a higher damaging attack after you stun them. A lot of different, very intelligently put together mechanics that make traversing this world kind of an interesting combat puzzle. And then the sci-fi is actually pretty well done as well. It has a new game plus that remixes the whole game, so if you enjoy it once, it's like it has two games in one. I actually really recommend Redo. And he was actually making a upgraded version of it. I guess that was canceled because of COVID, but which is kind of sad. But highly recommend Redo if you get a chance to play it. Just note that it is a game that you really have to get good and learn to play. So you'll have to get past that wall in order to really enjoy it. All right.
No problem.
Were you going to say something, or?
No, just saying, got to get over that wall to enjoy it. That's often the problem.
It is often a problem for a lot of people, yeah. All right, 8 Eyes. I'm not going to spend too much time on this game. This is a classic Vania-style game that was sent to me by Pico Interactive that I just happened to review. Does it have Metroidvania elements? I don't really even think it's like the Card Chronicles, where it even has abilities that you bring into the other levels. I'm pretty sure that... So it has a Mega Man style level select, similar to the Game Boy Castlevania that did that, and Destroy Space Aliens. But I think that all the sword that you get from beating the boss does is make the next one of the other bosses weak to your sword. This game is really hard to play. It is jank as heck. Nintendo hard all over the place. I'm going to put it in the D tier. But I love what PK Interactive is doing, or not D tier, or E tier, sorry. I've been getting confused with the D tier, E tier, which one represents. In fact, Castlevania Mirror of Fate, I would actually put in the D tier just because it's boring to me, or E tier. They sound similar, right, Nick? The D and E, they're the same letter, right? They look exactly the same.
It's basically the same letter.
Basically the same letter.
They just, when you say them as part of the alphabet song, they just kind of blend together anyway, so.
I love what Pico Interactive is doing, though. They keep porting these old games to Steam, and I think it's great for video game preservation. I just don't know if I recommend that particular game that they ported. And yes, it is on the NES. It is an original NES game. This is a fun one. Speaking of games that feel like B movies, this one's Knifeboy, and its shtick is just being over the top, violent, dystopian future where you're a dude who has a knife on his head, and honestly, it's one of those where the gameplay is more surreal than, or I'm sorry, the narrative is more surreal than. It feels fun to kind of unlock different story elements and that aspect of the game, just because it's just so insane with what it is. I think he bills it as he used to call this like a Mortal Kombat Metroidvania, and I don't know, it's just this crazy R-rated world that you can explore, and the gameplay is jank as heck, but it's also pretty fair. Like, collision is just plain awful. The bosses are kind of figuring out what you can exploit, but I had fun with it, just to see what crazy thing I was going to see next and what comic thing I was going to unlock. So it's just kind of a mind
it goes to show
Metroidvania,
how far theming and style can carry something.
Yeah. So I think it's a D tier game that, just like Metamorfose S, has qualities that, if you enjoy the kind of B movie type thing, I think that you might enjoy that game for that aspect of it. Mystik Belle is the closest to a adventure game Metroidvania that I have played. It is probably more adventure game than it is Metroidvania, although you do get like air dashing and a couple of other things. I think you probably get a double jump. You may not get a double jump in this game. That's something I should have as a tag. Games that don't use double jump. It's so common. But interacting with NPCs is very like Monkey Island-ish. And the big thing that gates you in this game is you have to find items that you pick up, just like in a PC adventure game. And you have to interact those items with other items in the game world. And it can be as obtuse as those old adventure games, especially since this game has like 20 or 10 or 20 red herring items that don't do anything. You have item scarcity, where you have to go back to your save point and you have an inventory limit. So knowing which items you might need is also an aspect to the game. Combat, it's just okay. Actual Metroidvania exploration, also just okay. But if you enjoy adventure games and you want to mix the two genres together, this is probably the one that makes it the closest. I give this one a C.
Melly Fishhead.
Quest for Glory is an adventure game enough for you? Okay. Quest for Glory probably shouldn't even be on this list, so we're going to go into that. That's Nancy Drew tier for sure. Continuing the not Metroidvanias that we've talked about today, we have Tower Hunter Urza's Trial. If you consider Dead Cells a Metroidvania, then this one is also a Metroidvania. This is this person's take on Dead Cells. If you think Dead Cells is too hard, then play this game, because it is jank as heck, and you level up and get super powerful, and I think it's more of a permanent upgrade type thing, similar to Rogue Legacy. But it has more of that Dead Cells style where you have to get through a gauntlet of 5 different levels until you get to the final boss. Its story is completely off the wall nonsense, anime nonsense. It's fine. I enjoyed playing it. It's too jank for me to put in the higher tiers, so I would give it a D tier. But it's fun. It's fun to play. I enjoyed my time with it. They are making a new game, which they're saying, "Hey guys, it really is a Metroidvania this time." We shall see. I think it is not available in early access, so it's going to be in early access, just like the original Tower Hunter was. Hopefully they fix the jank that the first game had. Maybe making it more Metroidvania will help them do that, so they don't have to balance so many skills this time. It looks like you'll be able to play 3 characters on this one as well. And they've got a whole lolly thing on. Tower Hunter has a Metroidvania mode, which still isn't. It doesn't surprise me. I don't know if the developer understands exactly what a Metroidvania is. But that's not.
He's not the only one.
That's not terribly uncommon. Apparently, I don't understand what a Metroidvania is, according to some people. So, if you like anime nonsense, you might enjoy it. The final level on Tower Hunter was probably the worst part. It's possible they patched it since I played it though, so that is what it is. Teslagrad. Beautiful animations. This is a puzzle platformer Metroidvania. Probably more puzzle platformer than it is Metroidvania, but you do get powers that allow you to go to different areas. Its gimmick is magnets, basically. Magnets, electricity. Hence the Tesla aspect to it. So everything is based around manipulating your movement. The disadvantage to that is that there are many ways you can fail because of the way the physics work, and it has complete one-hit kills. Anything will kill you in one hit, and you have to go back to a checkpoint, which can make some of the bosses really frustrating. I think you eventually get a thing that allows you to take one hit before you die. So for me, Teslagrad is B tier material, but it's unique, so I recommend it for that.
Are you playing as Nikola Tesla?
No, you don't play as Nikola Tesla.
No.
But if you enjoyed the puzzle stuff, it has really strong puzzles, so it's good. I think that one of the things that brings it down on the puzzle aspect for me, though, is just because of those physics. It feels a lot more like you're just, the way I did it, when you're brute forcing it, you're just trying over and over again until you get the physics to work the way you think it should, rather than solving a puzzle or creating a physics thing that you manipulate.
It's funny, I'm on a delay, so I'm watching, and I see the video that's playing, and it says, on Wii U, and I was like, how old is... Oh, 2013, okay.
Exile's End has mixed reviews, and it deserves it. This is one of the most boring games that I played. It is just so straightforward. The polish is there. It has really good polish, but it is just going through rooms and shooting enemies and finding, I don't know, it's just really boring. Stage complete. I guess they must have added a mode that has like time trial to it. The one good thing I have to say about this game is that it starts you out with you die from fall damage, and then when you get the Metroidvania upgrade that makes it so you can fall whatever distance you want, that feels like it was a good feeling. It was good, like the type of thing you look for in a Metroidvania, that you resolve this problem that was plaguing you from the beginning, and then that's the only time the game does that. After that, it's just really straightforward, slow level design, and it was just, I think it only took me 5 hours to beat, and it just felt like 15, you know. So I do not recommend Exile's End. I gave that one a 2 out of 5. Yeah.
Yeah, you really had a rough stretch of games that you had to play through these.
Some of the ones I gave lower scores, I still enjoyed them. They're just jank as heck, so I can't really recommend them because of that. So, like, for instance, Knifeboy, it was like, the gameplay was fine, it's just jank. I think if Knifeboy didn't have the theming it had, it probably would be stuck in the E tier too. Oh, yeah. So they say it's not a Metroidvania in the description. They're lying. This is one of the few situations where the developer doesn't know what a Metroidvania is, and they made a Metroidvania. And so I think Exile's End is definitely a Metroidvania.
I can't believe it's not Metroidvania.
Super Panda Adventures. This is just insane fun, and I recommend it because it's insane fun. Play it on easy. The bosses are just bullet sponges when you play it on hard. If you want, you can try and play it on hard. It makes the leveling up system a little bit more dynamic. But it's just goofy, stupid fun. You go up, you slash things in the face, and you get stats from exploration, so you just kind of get OP in some ways. It's just that some of the later bosses just become such meatbags that if you don't level up perfectly to address that, it can be a slog. But this game just showers with you with rewards around every corner, so it's just fun to go around and explore the world. It's an overwhelming positive just because this is just a candy game for what it is. Metroidvania-ness, it has an overworld map similar to Zelda 2, and so if that disqualifies it, you can say it does. You do unlock ability upgrades, so it has that going for it. I put this in the B tier. Doesn't quite make greatness to me, just because it probably needs a little better balance. Do you trust the text or the tag when it comes to Metroidvania-ness? I usually go by... So whether or not I was considering to review something, if the developer says it was a Metroidvania, then it was 100% I should review it. If for no other reason than to prove them right or wrong, that wasn't really my goal. But if they said it was a Metroidvania, then I just went ahead and did that. If it was ambiguous, then I would look at the Steam reviews. Exile's End, I think it was a combination of the tag and the Steam reviews. Did I put Finding Teddy? I did not. So let's talk about Finding Teddy and Chronicles of Teddy. Now, there is a certain number of games out there that I would probably list among my favorites that I would not necessarily give a high score. And these two games together fall into that. The reason why I'm showing Finding Teddy first, this is a strict point-and-click adventure game. I think it's important that you play this one first, because if you don't, then being thrown into Chronicles of Teddy will probably be really jarring because of its musical puzzle aspect to it. The point-and-click adventure game uses music in a lot of interesting ways. Actually, part of the goal of the game is finding piano keys, essentially, or just musical notes that you can play, and then that allows you to unlock other puzzles as you go along. And then Chronicles of Teddy takes that, kind of simplifies it and streamlines it, and then puts it into a Zelda 2 style adventure. It wears its Zelda 2 inspiration on its sleeves, I think. So it has kind of a Chronicles of Narnia thing going on, where she is sucked into another world. In the bedroom that you start in this game, I think she has a picture of Zelda 2 on the wall, so it's very obvious that it uses the Zelda 2 as its inspiration. The gameplay is probably the closest to Zelda 2 of any game that claims to be Zelda 2-like of any that I've played, for better or worse. I think that's going to be the biggest thing that turns people off to it, is that its physics are a little bit... what's the word? Finicky? Maybe? You have to get used to the physics. It's like relearning how to play a game again. Once you do...
Like sensitive?
Like, when you jump, you commit to the jump. The physics, like, pull you forward or that type of thing.
Sure.
The infamous Dark Nuts from Zelda 2 are better handled in this game. You can trick their shields down more easily. Like, they literally have the Dark Nuts in there. So the gameplay, combat is fine, in my opinion. One thing that I find really interesting is its musical puzzle aspect. But what really sells this game for me, and what makes it one of my favorites, is it's just its world and atmosphere just really hit home for me. And going around and playing the music for solving the different puzzles, just the music and the art and the graphics just all came together to make a Narnia-esque world that I enjoy escaping into. So even though this game probably deserves to be B tier for some of the issues with its gameplay, I still put it in A tier because it's my tier list and you can't stop me. I actually really like this game a lot. It is probably one of my favorites that I have played. Even though I acknowledge it is probably not for everyone. Continuing with and also it has 4 different levels with Zelda-like dungeons, so it's probably not the most Metroidvania game as far as that goes. And I only bring that up because I'm about to talk about Pankapu, which is Kirby. If you made backtracking to old levels, I say Kirby. It feels Kirby-esque to me. It just has that cute... I don't know. It feels like playing Kirby to me. So its main gimmick is that you transform into different versions, or you have different classes that you can transform into. You have the Mage, Warrior, and Rogue, of course. Archer, I think, is what they officially call it. And you unlock them as the game progresses, but you can go back to old levels and unlock things like health upgrades or other things that improve your character. So that's why it was often put in the Metroidvania category. It still has the tag. But it is a level-based game. You select levels similar to Mario 3, where you have a world map. I thought the story was charming. It has kind of 2 layers to it. As you can see from here, they have these human people kind of playing around with the character as a toy, and then you have the character itself. I think the biggest issue with this game, because of its lack of popularity, it kind of teases more story, but it doesn't really finish it. But I also feel like it ends satisfyingly enough that the ambiguity might actually be a benefit. I don't know. I like this game a lot. I think I gave it... I'm going to put it in the A tier today. As far as Metroidvania though goes, it's probably not the most. It's probably not at all. I think I put this in either low fit or barely comparable. So there's my...
Still a quality game.
Yeah, Crest-like might be the best way to put it, except it has a lot more levels than a Crest-like usually has. Outbuddies. It's another game where I feel bad giving it the score I did. Some people really like this game. We played this one co-op. I have not really played it a lot single player, just as a full disclosure there. I think it's good, or I think the co-op aspects are good. Its weaknesses are not that aspect. In fact, I think the co-op kind of makes some of its weaknesses better because you can kind of cheat your way through and sequence break some things. Although the game wasn't necessarily perfectly well designed for that. The problem with Outbuddies is it is just so slow. Like, all of your movement is slow. Going anywhere is slow. And it has a few bosses that have some random elements that just make them really a chore to fight. It had some really good bosses besides those, though. Like, you just saw one right there that they use the powers in some interesting ways. It's very Metroid-like, so if you're looking for a Metroid-style game, this one has it, but you're very weighty, and your movement is just, as I said, just really sluggish. The map is probably bigger than it needs to be. It's kind of difficult to get around it. And then the thing that kind of kills it for me is it teases a narrative that just isn't really there, or not very well executed, at least. So it left me wanting more. But I still think that there's some qualities to it that make it worth recommending. Some people really like Outbuddies. For me, it's a C game. Oh, that Sarah liked Outbuddies after Game Club. That's interesting. No? Like I said, it may be for you, but for me, probably one of the more boring co-op games that we played. Just because of the pacing. Here's a pair of games that I like a lot. We'll start with the first one. SteamWorld Dig. This is a C-tier game, mostly because of how straightforward it is. And just how easy it is to get through it and its length. But it has a good gimmick. Its object is that you are a miner and you have to dig down carefully. What does that remind me of? Dig Dug, maybe? Where you have to be careful about Boulder Dash on the NES. where you're going to have to be careful about how you dig because you could get crushed by things above you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has a loop of going down, finding loot, and going up and upgrading your character, which is really addictive. So that's a lot of fun. You get upgrades, as you can see in the video, that give you extra powers, Metroidvania style. Metroidvania-ness is very straightforward, though, because the object of the game is just to dig straight down, and that's it. When you get to the bottom, you win. SteamWorld Dig 2, however, takes that concept and actually makes it a Metroidvania. They have a fully realized world. It still has kind of like the little dungeon-like levels to it, aspect to it, and the main gameplay loop is still going to be finding loot and going to town and trading it in. But it is great. So I think it's probably one of the better Metroidvanias that I played of the entire grouping. SteamWorld Dig 2, I give a C. SteamWorld Dig 1, I give a C. SteamWorld Dig 2, I give an A+. Highly recommend SteamWorld Dig 2. And
I always liked the SteamWorld idea where they took a world and then they made games from multiple genres in that world. I thought that was cool.
That's the other aspect to this, is that I haven't really played the other SteamWorld games, but it makes me want to learn more about the world because the world's interesting. It's kind of a post-apocalyptic world where the robots have taken over, similar to a robot named Fight, but takes it to another level. So, it has a charm to it. Minecraft, where you don't dig straight down. Oh, Etzero didn't like Outbuddies. Okay, Etzero, you're goading Etzero, and she's apparently not paying attention. Is the issue. Minoria is another game that I liked. It is a lot like Momodora Reverie in the Moonlight because it is made by the same person. It's kind of a spiritual successor to it. It has some issues. A lot of people blame the new art style. I actually really like the look of the 3D art style, personally. I mean, I really like the way Momodora looks as well, but I thought they did a pretty good job with this. Kind of the issue with this game is some of the level design is a little bit not great. It's not terribly Metroidvania. Like, you get a double jump and a couple of things really late game. So like for half of the game, it's really just kind of straightforward. Spoken hub, get the keys, flip the switches to move forward. Just like Momodora, though, the big thing that this game has going for it is the combat. This time you have a lot of different spells to use. Otherwise, it's basically the same thing as Momodora Reverie in the Moonlight. You actually can unlock the oak leaf that you use in Momodora Reverie in the Moonlight. I think I called it a sword in the first stream, and I got in trouble for doing that. I think the big thing that brings the combat down is dodging is probably a little bit too cheap, so you can just kind of iframe your way everywhere and kind of choose when you attack the enemies. So I think it's a solid B tier game. I think my favorite thing about it was the narrative was really kind of interesting to me. I wouldn't say it's like super strong. Obviously, that would elevate it higher on my tier list if that were the case. But I like it. And similar to Momodora, you can perfect every boss, and so it's good.
Yeah,
good.
I actually looked at graphical styles too. I'm with you.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I would like it more, but a lot of people are like, "Oh, the game's ruined because it's 3D instead of 2D pixels," and I don't know. I don't fall into that camp. Even though I obviously like pixel graphics because of all the games that I do play that have them. But as I said earlier, graphics probably don't affect me as much as it affects other people. I can appreciate a game for the art that it has. And speaking of which, Kunai has kind of a monochromatic-ish graphical style going to it. I think this is a fine way to go if you want to go with a cheaper graphical style to create. Is just go stylized like this. It works. This is one I was really looking forward to. It has really cool the kunais that allow you to the grappling hooks. I haven't talked enough about grappling hooks. I don't think I mentioned that enough with Environmental Station Alpha. That's because in the late game Environmental Station Alpha, the grappling hooks kind of stopped being a thing. But doing grappling hooks well is kind of difficult, and between this and Environmental Station Alpha, I think they're the best ones that execute it. The problem with Kunai is it doesn't have the content to really make it shine. Like there's a lot of moves that you can do with the grappling hooks that it doesn't really make you do except in a few rare instances. Game kind of plays out a little bit more like levels when you're playing. Exploration is a little bit unsatisfying because the main thing you find through exploration, besides the occasional like health up, I think occasional like damage up, is hats. And once you find a hat you like, it's like the next hat you find, it's like, oh, look, another one that I'm not going to wear. So unless you really like changing hats a lot, the exploration might be a little bit dissatisfying to you. But like, this is what I mean by levels. This video that's playing right now is kind of a side-scrolling level similar to the airships in Mario 3. So it's another one of those games where it has some great mechanics, but doesn't have the content to support it. And worst of all, the bosses are kind of Mario-style bosses where you hit them, and then they go into an invincibility phase, and you hit them. The taking turns, the chess boss, I think is what Steve Game called it once. And most bosses only take 3 hits, and just not really good bosses for what is otherwise a fairly decent setup for combat. I just don't think it plays to its strengths well enough. I think that kind of focusing more on the platforming would have helped this game a lot more. So it's got some good qualities. I still give it a B though, just because of all those weaknesses.
Hooks are one of those mechanics where if you do it well, it can super like elevate your game. Like, and that's not just 2D platformers, that's even 3D platformers, or not even platformers. The best new mechanic in the newest Halo they made was the grapple hook.
Grappling hook, yeah, that's kind of the new popular thing to add to games.
Yeah.
It's not a bad idea if you do it well. Just sometimes it's not done well. In a 3D space, I think it's probably more fun just because grappling hooks is a... they don't work like grappling hooks would in real life. They're more like speed boosts in any direction you want as long as there's a wall nearby.
Yeah, it's definitely just a mobility upgrade.
It would rip your arms off if it worked that way in real life.
Well, my favorite was in Just Cause when you could plummet to the earth and then right before you hit the ground, you shoot your grapple at the ground and pull yourself towards the ground, and you're perfectly fine.
It somehow stops you midair. But that's fun, rule of fun, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And video games let you do things you can't do in real life, and that's part of the appeal. I shouldn't spend too much time on this game because I think they removed it from Steam. Sky RDX is if you took Sonic the Hedgehog and added Metroidvania upgrades to it. And great idea, execution, kind of super jank. And one of the things that it does is it lets you level up physics, like you can make it so you move faster, jump higher, etc., etc. That screws around with your platforming, so you gotta really work on the math on that if you're gonna have that be a factor to it. I think there's a big vision on this game. I just don't think that it was realized. Yeah, here's the skill tree that it had. So some appealing aspects to it, but I'm gonna throw that in the E tier. I think I probably gave it a D originally. You can't even get it anymore, so I mean it's hardly even worth spending too much time on that. I feel bad for the developer because I know it was passion. Everybody who makes a game, they have they do it for a reason. So
yeah, very rarely do I think, especially like these individual devs are like, I'm gonna make a cheap cash grab. Like they're all
some do.
They're all really making a passion product.
So yeah, I feel bad that it turned out the way it did. It's just I think he had more ambition than he had the means on that one.
I'm surprised this many games have been delisted from Steam. I wonder what percentage of games that go up end up down eventually.
Yeah, it's probably less than like 1 or 2%. But so far we've only talked about Sky and Pagoda of the Night are the only ones that didn't. All right, Rabbit's Quest. Go play this game. It's free. It says that you can name your own price. If you enjoy it, go back and pay them. I recommend doing that because you want to support your developers. But just go play it. If you played Hero's Quest, Hero Core. Sorry, Hero Core. This is like expanded Hero Core. It's a sort of a top-downish. Let's go ahead and this is an official trailer here. Let's see what we can get out of this. Let's pull it up on YouTube so we can actually see it. Okay, so it's kind of sort of a top-downish game where you can shoot left and right. You have a button that shoots left and a button that shoots right, so you can kind of strafe around. And that's basically the entire mechanics of the game. You get the ability to dash into things and a couple of other things that deal damage, but for the most part, that is what the entire game is based around, and it just takes it to the highest extremes in really satisfying ways. As far as Metroidvania goes, it's just like Hero Core in the sense that it's more that you just break through blocks and walls to move around. Graphics probably don't do a lot for a lot of people, but if you just enjoy good action gameplay with it actually gives you a reason to explore every screen that you kill all the enemies on, gives you an extra hit point. So it's kind of like if you explore every single screen, you get more powerful, and that's like it is required for some of the late game stuff. It's one of those where you beat the final boss and you get an ending, but if you want to, you can go further. And this has probably the hardest secret ending boss that I've ever fought. Took me like 4 hours to beat. Super satisfying game, though. I love Rabbit's Quest. So, it's free. Go play it. Try it. More people need to play this game.
How many radiance out of 10 is the final boss?
How many radiances? Gosh, this one creates a new scale. I used to use radiance as my for how hard a boss is, like what it is. Well, and it broke the scale.
Uh-oh.
While we're at it, let's go ahead and talk about Hero Core. This is also a free game. I'm going to have a hard time finding. Maybe I shouldn't talk about it until we get to it. Yeah, let's wait. Let's wait on that one. I probably should talk about that at the same time because they're very similar, though. We'll come back to it. Next game on the list is one of the better platforming-only focused games that I played. This one has no combat. Let's see here. Come on, show me the... Okay, so you play a little ball, and it kind of has a dystopian like future where everybody's addicted to loot boxes, essentially.
Dystopia?
Yeah. I think it almost post-apocalyptic, so there's that aspect to it, but really the main thing behind this game is the platforming. It's just super solid, sort of physics-based platforming. There's a little bit of momentum, as you would expect from a ball that rolls around. Good Metroidvania exploration, and it takes its platforming mechanics to good levels. You find these loot boxes that unlock more aspects to that platforming that are interesting. I think the fact that there's no combat is one of the unique factors of this game. Another interesting thing about this game is how it handles difficulty. You can turn up the number of checkpoints there are, which I recommend doing. And you can also increase the number of hits you take whenever you get hit spikes or whatever. So you can either make it like Super Meat Boy, where you die in one hit and you have to go back to the checkpoint, or you can make it so you have a little bit of leeway in whether or not you survive. And as you kind of adjust those two, it tells you how hard the game's going to be. My opinion, add more checkpoints, reduce your hit points down to 1 or 2. That's how I like it. But you can customize it however you like it. And that's kind of a neat aspect to it. And then, of course, it has the default 3 lives and medium checkpoints. Personally, I don't like going back so far. So this is a good one for you, Nick. Turn the checkpoints up. And,
I love me my frequent checkpoints.
Yes. Well, I mean, like the Celeste aspect to it. You don't have to go through as much when you do that. So
get me back to the challenge I failed.
Yeah. So A-tier game. Really solid. Highly recommend it. Has a terrible name, but it ties into its narrative, which is, I wouldn't call that a major aspect to it, but super solid game. Next game on the list is a weird one called Jumplord, and I think this game is being overhauled. There was an announcement that this whole game was going to be overhauled soon. No user reviews. I didn't even review it. Oh, because I received the product for free. This was one that was given to me, so it doesn't count. That's sad. This one is weird. It has a static world with like roguelike powers that you unlock, and when you die, you lose them all, and that's kind of frustrating, and the game is super jank. I don't know how else to describe this one. It's just bizarre. The world feels like you got into a glitch level on an old like Montezuma's Castle or Montezuma's Revenge. If you've ever played that.
It's just the whole game.
Yeah, it feels like you got into a glitch level on that thing. But I don't. It's weird enough. I'd probably put this in the D tier. I think I originally gave it a C. So if you like weird stuff that kind of it was a little bit nostalgic of Commodore 64 style games. It's different. Apparently, he's overhauling the whole game though, because it wasn't very well loved. So.
People nostalgic for Commodore 64 are still out there.
Yeah, it's true. I don't know if I'm one of them, but
I'm not.
I don't think I ever had one growing up. So
that was like the gen before my awareness of video games time.
Did I ever mention the name of the game? Jumplord is the name of the game. Jump King is. Oh, we're talking about a different game.
Jump King.
All right, Strider, 2014. I really wish I had played the other Strider games so I could compare the two. So I'm just gonna give what this game is. This game is over the top, crazy, mindless, fun. Your main weapon, you slash in front of you, and you just slashy, and you just feel like a garbage disposal going around and just putting enemies into yourself.
Nice.
And because of that, the bosses are just like you have your hands on the controller, you mash the buttons until they die. And yeah, you gotta dodge. There's some nuance to it. I'm probably overselling how just kind of crazy action this game is, but like they're action games where you kind of watch an enemy pattern and you pull up a strategy, and there's other games where you just react and just go for it. And this is one of those games where you just go for it. And it is just super over the top. You fly in and you just wreck the place, and it is fun. I like this game. Metroidvania NES technically has a large contiguous world, and it's worth backtracking to get upgrades because the game does get somewhat difficult, and getting extra health upgrades is going to help you. Probably not the most Metroidvania though. You could probably play it straight through and not even notice that it's a Metroidvania, and that's good for this game. I don't think every game should be true Metroidvania. I don't think that brings it down at all. It doesn't get in the way of the action. In fact, probably the worst part of the game is backtracking to old areas to find things, but it gives you an option for making the game easier if you don't want to have the difficulty of fighting a boss without those upgrades. So I like this. I like Strider a lot. It's got Capcom camp oozing out of its face, and it's an A tier game for me. Okay, next game. Oh, that's interesting. We're starting to move into. I did not put this on. All right, maybe it was only Epic only at the time. I did not put a link on my website for this, so maybe I should go back and fix that. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. It is another game that a lot of people were like, "Oh, this is so bland, AAA nonsense." I love this game. I think it's great, and I think it is a Metroidvania. That's my controversial opinion. Probably one of the more Metroidvania 3D games that I played. More Metroidvania than Darksiders 3 Cauldron. No, I'm just kidding. It does have a lot of narrative gating. You do have to progress the story to get to different parts, so it still has to be a Star Wars game. So that aspect of it is going to probably turn off some people from its Metroidvania-ness, but you know what? It's a good game. I like this one. It has kind of Sekiro-style combat. Not as... the telegraphing is probably closer to something like Batman Arkham Asylum, those, where it's more finding a rhythm than it is about reacting to telegraphs. I think that'll turn some people off. I played this on Grandmaster Jedi mode, hardest difficulty, and I just had a blast with the combat. It was fun to go back to the two main worlds that you can explore and just unlock new things. I think they did a really good job with this game. You don't have to sign your Darksiders 3. You're correct. I don't have to sign your Darksiders 3. I was just teasing you, Cauldron. I hate when people say this is the better version of that game, even though I've probably done that a lot during this tier list stream. But you don't need to make people defensive about some other game when you're talking about the game. But anyway, and as far as Star Wars stories go, I'm one of those people who have been very disappointed with Star Wars ever since they started making movies of it. After Disney picked
Ever since they started making movies.
Ever since they started making movies of it after Disney took it.
There we go. All right.
You didn't let me finish my sentence.
I've been really disappointed from Star Wars, really since they started making movies.
I'm one of those people who don't think the prequels are very good, and this one kind of relies heavily on the prequels, but it has it follows the Star Wars pattern. But that's one of the things that makes this good, is that it kind of goes back to what made Star Wars good as far as the story is concerned, and that was extremely refreshing to me. There are also, I think the Steam page just went up today. Jedi Survivor is the sequel coming out. Am I excited for this game? I don't know. There's so many things that can go wrong with this. AAA-isms can... I should probably explain what AAA-isms are, but I'm going to do that next time when I talk about Control. AAA-isms could leak into it and make it worse.
I think the biggest stumbling block for it is it's stuck in that incredibly awkward space where they're telling a story between stories, and so they can't upset the status quo too terribly much.
Yeah, and that's actually something else I'll mention about that. Jedi Fallen Order actually does that really well. It has a little bit of fan service at the end where people are like, oh my gosh, this happened, of course this happened. But I actually thought they built up to it really well. So I love Jedi Fallen Order. Will Survivor be good? Made by Respawn still. They did a good job with the first one. It's possible. It could be ruined. I don't know. But I do recommend Jedi Fallen Order. Some people were bored by it. I'm not one of those people. This is an A+ game for me. And I think with that, we're coming up on time. So I should probably explain what's going to happen next week. So we were hoping we could get this done in 4 weeks. Obviously, we're not there. This is how many games we have left. However, we could fit all the games into one screen. So I think we could probably get through this with one more.
Yeah, we're getting there.
So next week, because we wanted to get this done with in 4 weeks, I actually have a prior commitment, so I will not be able to stream this next week. So 2 weeks from now, we will continue this and hopefully finish it at that point. And so thank you very much for watching, and we'll go dive right into the main topic of the day, which was, what is the worst Metroidvania that I have played?
Oh man, we've all been waiting.
We've all been waiting. I've been hyping it up, and just so everybody could be disappointed. The problem with hype. So I want to say first, as I said on the second stream, when I started moving into the games that I was going to put into the lower tiers, I acknowledge that all of these games are made by people. I know that there's a lot of passion that goes into these. This is not a slant on or a slam on the people that made this. Even though I'm calling it the worst thing, you have to have a worst when you make a tier list like this. And this one just happens to be it. I also challenge you to be a contrarian and find reasons to enjoy this game and tell me why I'm wrong, because I think that's fun. So if you completely disagree with me, that's also perfectly fine. The worst game, Metroidvania, that I have ever played is Bookbound Brigade.
Dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun. So let's compare it to the other games in the bottom tier. Legend of the Universe Cosmic Bounty is broken. I could not beat it because of a broken thing aspect to it. Game is jank and is also very boring. Also only 2 hours long. That's its benefit. That's why it's better than this game. Zeran's Folly, immature, also boring. Boring level design, also janky. I should not say that word. It is a swear word in Portuguese. Pagoda in the Night is also immature and also broken, and the bosses are terrible. Bookbound Brigade is less broken. There is actually some polish to this game. The problem with its polish is that it is just plain boring. I'm trying to find a good video of the gameplay here. Moving around anywhere is slow, and then the level design is just way bigger than it should be. Like, this level design needs to be pared down like to 30% of what it is. To just get anywhere, you have to slowly walk with your crowd of people from different books, all public domain properties, of course. I should probably go into what the premise of this game is first. So, Bookbound Brigade, you control a cast of characters from like Dracula. I think King Arthur's in there. Dorothy from Wizard of Oz is in there. Anything that's public domain is game. And so somebody has broken all the books and unbound them all, and your job is to get all the books back together to return things to normal. You're just kind of thrown into it. And the problem with that premise is that unless you're familiar with these franchises initially, which you may or may not be, like, for instance, we all know Dracula, of course, but we all, being Metroidvania fans, are going to have a different idea of who Dracula might be. So you have to find the fact that Dracula is now telling dad jokes to be funny. Like, they didn't establish who the characters were before they were all unbound, so that part is pointless. And so, like, most of the jokes are just really not very funny absurdities of what these characters might be if you are familiar with those original franchises. So its premise is destroyed. And then the other aspect to it where you're controlling multiple people just because you move around so slow. And it's so awkward sometimes. Like, there's you have to stack them sometimes to fit onto narrow platforms so nobody falls off. And if somebody falls off, everybody gets dragged down with them. Because of the way they sway back and forth, it makes that awkward and slow. You have to kind of move through it slowly. I'm going to use the word slow so many times during this explanation of why this is the worst game I played. 17.2 hours is how long it took me to beat this game. There are points in the game where I was just wandering around trying to figure out where the heck I was supposed to go, because they let you go into dead ends, and walking slowly to a dead end and walking back slowly from that dead end is going to be a problem. For whatever reason, every action you make besides the basic jumping and changing your formation costs mana, including double jumping and wall jumping. So if you run out of mana, you get to sit there and wait for your mana to get back up so you can do the platforming you need to do. There were times when I was looking at my phone, just waiting for my status bar to go back up. It is just one of the most painful games I have ever played. And not even its theming can save it from that. So even though I appreciate that it has actually really excellent art, its misuse of its premise and just completely over-bloated level design, puzzle platforming that is just more slow and mindless than it is actually interesting. There are so many puzzles where you just have to hit switches and figure out what order to hit them in, and it's completely trial and error. And they do that like probably at least 20 times. I'm not even exaggerating. It is the worst Metroidvania that I have played. It is very annoying. And Caldrath insists that Masked Mage is worse. Okay, Caldrath, I'm going to challenge you on this one. How long did it take you to beat Masked Mage? If it took you less than 18 hours, I'm going to argue that Bookbound Brigade is probably still worse.
He is still playing Mask Mage. He has to every day.
I want to say that Mask Mage is probably like, I think he said it was like an hour long. Let's look that up real quick. I have not played this one. This is made by a guy named Ezekiel Rage, who is a very interesting character out there who goes on Twitter and says a lot of controversial things. 0.02, 1.6. I don't know how many these people actually beat the game though. 0.03. But yes, putting costs on your movement abilities is probably the thing that completely did well. Basically, Bookbound Brigade does everything wrong. It has a skill tree, and in that skill tree, there are skills that allow you to get more skills more quickly. So you buy those first, and not getting any benefits from your skill tree. It just... Anyway, that's it. I might make a video review about that later on and articulate that a little bit better. But that is the worst Metroidvania that I've ever played. And with that, we are done for the day. 2 weeks from now, next week there will be no stream. 2 weeks from now we'll continue this, and move towards the games that came out more recently. Hopefully it'll be the last one. There's still a lot of games there. It might be 2 more. I apologize if it is. The very last one might be 45 minutes long instead of the 90 minutes, but that's just how it might shake out. But I want to thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have an especially adventurous day.